All right, welcome to episode 89 of 5 Minutes of X, where 5 is flexible. I'm reading every mutant comic Marvel ever made in chronological order, and this week, 2 X-Men. Granted, they don't interact and the stories take place in different times, but two X-Men. All right, there were 4 mutant-containing books in October of 1970, but only 1 in November. So I'm going to review 3 books of the October books anyway now, and then bump 1 to the next episode. Sorry to Iron Man number 33. All right, on October 13th, 1970, Marvel released the Avengers number 83, written by Roy Thomas, with art by John Buscema, and the Avengers, the Amazing Spider-Man, number 92, written by Stan Lee with art by Gil Kane. Then on October 27th, we get part 3 of our Ka-Zar books that have no new Ka-Zar. Our Angel story here was again drawn by George Tuska and written by Superman co-creator Jerry Siegel. Great to see him again. So let's start with Spidey. We open with Spider-Man kidnapping Gwen Stacy in an attempt to clear Peter Parker's name. Poor Pete is having some bad luck with a dude named Sam Bullet, a crooked and leading candidate for the office of New York's district attorney. As Spider-Man kidnaps the alter ego's girlfriend, Bobby Drake happens to be on the sidewalk with not Zelda or Lorna. The Marvel bullpen didn't want this chick to have a name, so Bobby calls her Honey and then a cab, and she is out of the issue. So Iceman gives a chase, and we get a fun rooftop scene between Spider-Man and Iceman. They talk a little smack and do some punching before Spider-Man swings away. Sam Bullet uses the opportunity to further his case about being a law and order candidate, and he even uses Iceman for part of his photo op. We cut to a lot of story between Bullet and JJJ. J. Jonah Jameson has spoken with Peter Parker and Robbie Robertson, and is about to retract the Daily Bugle's support for Bullet over many of his supporters being in hate groups. It's a really nice scene, and it's clear that Bullet is a racist in this scene. So Parker realizes that Bullet's goons are going to take out Robbie and gives chase as Spider-Man. But of course, as he does, he is attacked by Iceman again. Spider-Man does get away momentarily and finds the warehouse where a now captured Robbie is being held. Bullet is being a bad dude, and Spidey is about to drop in when Iceman smiles at him. Iceman, who also overheard the evil monologuing and is now on Team Spider. They capture the goons while Bullet gets away to a gala, but then our heroes ruin his rep at the bow tie event. Bullet leaves the event in handcuffs. So then in the Avengers, we open with Wasp sneaking back into Avengers HQ. Not sure why she would have to do that. She lives there. She wouldn't have to sneak. But she bumps into Black Widow, Medusa, and Wanda. Oh, and Valkyrie. Valkyrie tells a story about being screwed over by dudes over and over again, leading to her being fed up with sexist behavior. This does seem to rile up Wanda, Widow, and Medusa. I can't speak for Medusa since I don't read Fantastic Four much, and she's primarily a villain in that book, but I have mentioned the sexism towards Wanda and Widow over the last 5 years of these comics. It appears it's exceeded its critical limit, and these chicks are done with it. They raid off on a chariot for reasons that are not quite yet clear, and we cut to a room filled with dudes. Both hero dudes and villain dudes. Over a couple of pages, we learn that there's a small town Halloween parade in Rutland, Vermont. The Avengers, but only the dude Avengers, are in attendance, with Wanda having sent her apologies for having missed the event. So it's clear that it's not just the dudes that were invited. It was just a coincidence that there were only dudes in the room. A parade packed with peril as a cavalcade of criminals came crashing into the scene. Klaw, the Melter, Radioactive Man, and Whirlwind all whipped into action. A B-list battalion of bad boys bringing bedlam to the boulevard. And wouldn't you know it, Dr. Irwin was also in attendance, the sexist scholar who previously provoked Valkyrie's profound displeasure. How conveniently he'd wandered into this particular war zone. Whirlwind and Quicksilver clash as the competing speedsters, two fast and furious fellows flinging themselves at each other. The dudes get decimated and dispatched, done dirty in the dust. But the ladies leap in and level the playing field, picking up the pieces of their pulverized partners. The women wade through the wicked and wallop them wonderfully, but Valkyrie's violence veered into something more volatile. As she surveyed the smoke-shrouded scene, she seethed. Up against the wall, male chauvinist pigs! And with the dust settling and the bad boys bested, Valkyrie turned to her teammates with a terrifyingly tranquil tone. Bind them all, she said, the villains and the valiant male Avengers alike. Then march to the university where that dastardly doctor had dared to disrespect her and settle some seriously overdue scores. Once there, she drops her ruse and unveils herself as Enchantress and tells a tale that I struggle through mightily. Enchantress broke up with her beau, Skurge, the Executioner. He's a Thor villain, and now she hates all men. Wanda blasts her, and whatever spell she had over Widow, Medusa, and Wasp was broken. What once was Enchantress is now a smoking hole in the floor. We end the issue with Goliath making a sexist comment, and Wanda threatening to lead the caped ladies against him. So last but not least, we have Ka-Zar number 3. Okay, we left off with Warren ditching his girlfriend, Candy Southern, after hearing that his father was murdered on the radio. The hit was ordered by a villain named the Dazzler. FBI agent Fred Duncan wants Angel to slow down a little and breathe before doing anything rash. And remember, this story takes place a while ago, right after Professor X died, so this isn't current, like after the X book was canceled. Duncan tells the Angel that no one can take the law into their own hands. Angel sort of agrees before flying off, vowing to catch the Dazzler before the FBI does. So we cut to the Dazzler spying on one of his captured henchmen in the police station. Before they can narc on Dazzler, Dazzler zaps them with this clothing antimatter turner into thingy ray gun. Thing. I don't know, whatever. He died for show, this guy. And Dazzler shows this game tape to the rest of his henches so that they'll obey better. We cut to Warren at home. The news is out and people are calling, trying to get business from a rich family. Here we have an undertaker who wants to bury the recently murdered Warren Worthington Jr. Warren III doesn't like this and becomes a bit of a breaky boy in his anger. Then he looks at a picture of Candy Southern and blames dating her for his father's death. What the hell? God, Angel, Jesus. But don't think about that too long, because Warren then gets beamed to the Dazzler's lair. Between that antimatter clothing ray and now the beaming tech, this Dazzler fella certainly has a lot of power. Warren fights off a few of the henches in the bad boy base, but gets knocked out. They don't actually know he's Angel, though, and when he wakes up, he dons his costume and slips out of his cell. So Angel does some punching and confronts Dazzler. Dazzler still doesn't know that Angel and Warren are the same dude here, because we see Candy Southern in a glass tube. More glass tubes, man. Oh, God. And Dazzler explaining to Angel that this is Warren's girlfriend. He summons more henchmen and orders that his mask be removed. So this Avengers story is fun, I guess, but I just didn't get it. Enchantress didn't exactly put a spell on the Super Femmes. I suppose it's just sort of like the imposition.
Because of the implication.
But I just didn't feel like these women superheroes were Jedi mind strict the way that we were supposed to believe they were. Them being fed up with the rampant sexism is something I'm actually more than happy to explore, but the implication here is that these women were only one conversation away from defecting on gender grounds already. I have not gotten that feel from any of these women before, so it's just sort of out of left field. It's just sort of weird. Other than that, though, this issue is kind of fun. The parade thing is just so Avengers. They're publicly facing superhero team, going to parties and events in between the death-defying fights, so it's right up their alley. Which I should say I didn't expect to enjoy. I've never really been a huge fan of the Avengers because I prefer the attempt at being a secretive supersuiting like the X-Men and Spider-Man. But this continues to hold my attention well. The ending of this issue is also very Star Trek cheese. Like, I could hear the goofy music and the freeze frame as Goliath and Wanda argued. This Spider-Man story is super fun. Not sure what the deal is with the nameless girlfriend, and I would like some closure with Zelda. Maybe a drink to the face, into Iceman's face or something. Anything. But I love the version of this story where there's a somewhat legitimate reason for the heroes to fight, that of course gets resolved for the team up at the end. It's a little paint by numbers, but the beats are good, and the dialogue is good, and the art here is really great. This is kind of a textbook example of how not to handle reprints. I mentioned when I covered Ka-Zar issue number 2 that it contained the reprints of Daredevil 12 and 13 and complained that those issues were a spoiler for the Daredevil issues contained in Ka-Zar number 1. It gets even worse here because Ka-Zar number 3, this issue, puts the conclusion to the Daredevil story out of order. It comes after the included Amazing Spider-Man number 57, which would have happened at the end. In between them is the second part, but not the final part, of this Angel series that has nothing to do with Ka-Zar at all, and the only newly written material for this entire issue. And for the conclusion of the Angel storyline, we have to go to Marvel Tales number 30, which I'll cover in an episode, I think number 91 of 5 Minutes of X. Imagine this. You're a kid in October of 1970, and your mom takes you to the supermarket, and while she shops the produce section, you run over to the comic spinner rack, hoping to drop a 25-cent comics in her cart, maybe make a sneaky little sneaky in there, maybe just beg a little to get that Marvel goodness. Let's say you're a huge X fan and you're bummed that your favorite book has been canceled. Looking at this cover, how would you know that there's a new Angel story in here? And even if you did manage to get this home and see that the next part of the story was in Marvel Tales number 30, how are you ever supposed to get that particular issue? It's unknown if it'll ever be on spinners. As an 11-year-old, you're not going to remember the different title, the different name, when it's going to come out. You're not going to remember any of that. The plot has some really weak spots. Why all the Candy Southern hate? This is a mid story so far. It's totally worth reading, but this isn't like a masterpiece or anything. We're not dealing with a story so famous that people will want to search it out. And it really bums me out that this is one issue worth of a story spread across 3 issues. And it's the only time that a Superman creator will write an X book. It's just such a waste. Making matters even worse is that the third part of the Angel story that we're going to cover in 2 episodes, it's not even, the digital version is even on the Marvel app. I had to go track down a copy of this thing. So you can read the first 2 parts of the story on the Marvel app, but not the third part. This is just completely broken. But anyway, another chapter in the Mutant Chronicles complete. For more character info, reading lists, and what other nerdy projects I'm tangled up in, swing by Jordy.com. New episodes drop Wednesdays at noon and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern. Post issue 66, we get a throwback Angel and a current Bobby. I admit I get super excited when I see X-Peeps living their lives in this trying time of the recycled reprints.